Oh. Just let me know whether you are able to see the screen. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No,
One of you?
Sir, but your voice is cracking actually.
Hello?
Hello?
sir, it's visible now. It must be a network issue.
Yes, sir, it's proper.
One of you please unmute and tell me whether you can see my screen.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but your voice is breaking.
So we can see, but your voice is
Just keep listening till the
Yes,
end.
I'm
sir,
not
your
able to
voice is
hear.
cracking.
Hello? Hello? Is it better?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay. So, as I said, anytime you have doubt or something, just unmute yourself and you can find a common thread through all the topics. It's very difficult as a teacher to figure out where to start as far as this subject is concerned. So now madam has started with immunology and I'm going to start with what is
Sir, you are not audible.
already hello, hello.
Yes,
Is
sir,
this
now you
better
are
at
audible.
all?
Your voice was cracking.
Ah,
There was a
okay.
disturbance.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. Hopefully now. Hello. Is it
So now
better
you are
now?
audible. It's better.
Okay. So the term biotechnology was actually coined by a gentleman called Karl Erecki of Hungary way back in 19th. And what he used this term was for something which he was doing in his factory. Okay, he used this word biotechnology to describe an integrated process for the large-scale production of pigs using sugar beet as a food source. So basically, he was running a pig farm where he was, actually breeding pigs or rearing pigs later on to be used as a source for what is called as pork and bacon and stuff like that. Okay, he probably used this term as a shortening of biological technology, because what he was trying to do is making sure he gives us very specific feed. That feed he was converting to meat, as far as we are concerned. Later on, a few people thought a better word to describe what we call as biotechnology was all lines of work by which products are produced from raw materials with the aid of living beings. Okay, so anywhere where living beings are used uh, in order to produce something after giving or feeding a raw material was called as biotechnology. But this definition is kind of not all encompassing, because it requires things to be living. Okay, sometimes we can use things obtained from living beings, for example, enzymes, etc., and that can be used to give you products that you need. Okay, so as of today, very interestingly, at some point, the word biotechnology was used to describe industrial fermentations, like making penicillin, cephalosporin, using what is called as fermentation processes. And at one point, it was also used to study the efficiency at the workplace, which nowadays goes by the term economics. Okay, so it has got a checkered history, this word biotechnology. But as of today, the more accepted definition for biotechnology is the application of scientific and engineering principles to the processing of raw materials by biological agents. Okay, so when you say living or non-living, what is important is derived from a biological source in order to provide what is called as goods. Okay, so goods means some products, services means like that. Okay, another nice definition is application of biological organisms or systems or processes to the manufacturing and service industry. Okay, and another definition is production of useful compounds by the use of microorganism, plant, animals, including humans, in all-encompassing manner. Hello. Yeah.
Sir, sir, you're not audible.
Hello. Yes. Okay. Let me try again. Let me back. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Now it's better.
Okay. So there are a lot of definitions, but it's hard to find a definition which is like fully encompassing based on all the scope of biotechnology. But these three definitions kind of convey much better what biotechnology is. So basically, the idea is to use biological systems or biological agents in order to get some products which are useful to us. Okay. Now there are several types of biotechnology which people talk about nowadays. For example, if the biological system which is being used is from a plant in order to get at a product or produce something, then we call it green biotechnology. Then sometimes people refer to it as blue biotech. As far as using animals and humans are concerned as biosystems, then many times the word red biotechnology is used. For bacteria, people use the word gray biotechnology. If you are talking about using enzymes for industrial applications, okay. Now, among all this, as of today, different people work in different areas, okay. But if you were to ask somebody which is probably the most farther ahead, it is probably red biotechnology. And if you ask which is probably lagging in terms of uh, here, what is pharmaceutical biotechnology? Now, pharmaceutical biotechnology is nothing but the above definitions that we have given, except then add on the fact that important compounds or to do something in the healthcare field. Okay, so pharmaceutical biotechnology is simply a subset of general biotechnology. Now, within this pharmaceutical biotechnology, what you find is we can do a lot of things. Okay, and you might not even realize that this is all biotechnology. Even using it like on vaccines for that in order to boost your immunity. Okay, production and delivery of lots like penicillins, cephalosporins are all part of even producing what are called as monoclonal antibodies for diagnostic purposes. Then what you call as genomics, gene therapy, enzyme and cell immobilization, animal cell culture, that is growing animal cells in a test tube or in a flask so that you can get products out of it. Similarly, under incense pharmaceutical technology, so long and so long that it is used for producing something which is important from a pharma sector. Okay. Now, what we are going to talk about as recombinant DNA technology is actually a technique which is used for doing a lot of these things that I've just talked about. Okay, it's a technique which is used as part of cell culture. It is a technique which is used as part of fermentation. It is a technique which is used as part of production of vaccines, etc., etc. Okay. What do you mean by what you call as recombinant DNA technology? One of the easiest way to understand what is rDNA technology or recombinant DNA technology is that it's a production of a new or a unique DNA molecule by joining two or more normally together. So, in a sense, it is like combining or recombining two pieces of DNA such that together, in most of the cases, what you find is the DNA fragments are usually derived from different biological sources. For example, one could be from human, other could be bacteria, one could be from plant, other could be from bacteria, one could be from virus, other could be from a vaccine. Such a mix where you join together DNA, which is normally never found associated with each other, is called as recombinant DNA. And that's why the name genetic engineering, because when we talk about DNA, we always talk about what are called as genes, etc. Okay, so it is also sometimes referred to as a gene or DNA splicing. Okay, because you are many times going to cut one piece of DNA from one place, cut another piece of DNA from another place, and then join this cutout pieces as part of recombining. Okay? So we are going to study what this genetic engineering is, how we do it, and what are some of the basic principles behind what is called as genetic engineering. Okay, but to begin our discussion, we actually need to know something about DNA before we start to manipulate it, or before we start to what is called as play with it. Now, in your biochemistry sequence, if I recall, you have had two sessions of biochemistry in your first year. Anyone? Yeah, two
Yes, sir.
biochem courses, right?
Yes, sir.
And if you notice very
Yes, sir.
carefully, in neither of those courses was any emphasis given to DNA. Okay, and therefore, if I decide to start recombinant DNA technology just like that, I would find that double this knowledge of what is DNA and how you can and what it does is necessary so that you can understand how you can manipulate DNA. Okay, so in that regard, whoever is taking biochemistry, okay, uh, they will have a chance to learn about DNA and replication. Okay, but then because it is very necessary in this class also, some of the initial lectures that I'm going to take are going to be lectures which are actually common for both recombinant DNA technology people and biochemistry people. Okay, so even after you decide who is going to take biochemistry as an elective, or even if you don't take it as an elective also, these initial lectures are going to be a background so that we can later on understand how to do what is called as genetic engineering.
Sir,
Okay.
sir, Kirtis is
So I'm
trying
going to
to join the lecture.
so what are called as new. Okay.
Sir,
Uh,
the Kirtis is trying to join the lecture. He had a network issue. Now it is resolved. So he's trying to join
okay.
in. He's waiting in the lobby.
Okay, but let me see. I can't see the lobby from the screen that I have. Okay. Let me see. Uh, I might have to. Because in this mode I have, no, I am unable to see who all is there in the lobby. So I don't know how to even. Should I stop my sharing for a second, check and come back? Okay.
Okay,
Let
sir.
me stop sharing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll just stop sharing. Let me check. Okay. If I see him anywhere. Okay. Uh, I'm not seeing anyone in the lobby. Okay. Currently in the meeting and nobody in the lobby. Hello. And let me
Yes,
see
sir,
if
there is
Kirtis is
nobody.
already there. Is uh, okay. Let me try again. No, I don't see anyone in the lobby. Okay. So I'm going to go back to sharing because I'm not
Sir,
seeing him in the.
he just sent me a screenshot saying that he's waiting in the lobby.
Okay.
So I guess it must be a network issue from his side.
Yeah, because now I don't see anyone in the lobby. Okay.
Okay, sir, I'll tell him.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start. Let me see. I. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me. Okay. Shall I continue?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, oh God, I think when I did this, no, the recording stopped. Let me start recording and then come back. Huh? Okay, it's a recording. It's a recording.
So now Kirtish can be seen in the lobby.
Okay. Wait, I'll check. I'm not seeing it here in my.
Sir, he is
Sir,
there, sir.
again, he's
Kirti
having
is there. Yeah. Just a second, Kirti, I can see. Make an attendee. Okay, I'm going to make him as an attendee. Who can share content? Okay. Okay. Ask him if is he able to join?
Yes, I have joined.
अच्छा, okay. ठीक है? So I'm going to go back to sharing quickly. Okay. Okay. Shall I continue now?
Yes, sir.
yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We are going to begin with what are nucleic acids. Okay, nucleic acids are nothing but two important molecules which we see in biosystems. Okay, namely what are referred to as deoxyribonucleic acids and ribonucleic acids. Okay, and we all know the importance of these two molecules because we know that in most biological systems the flow of what is called as information or what we call a central dogma of biology, but dogma simply means something which is very well accepted, is that DNA in many cases is the genetic material which stores the information about how an organism can potentially function and survive, and that information from this DNA is passed on via RNA through the process of transcription to result in the production of proteins by the process of translation. Okay, and it is these proteins which include things like receptors, enzymes, structural proteins, are what are responsible for how the cell typically functions. Okay? So further, DNA also has one more function other than information transfer. It also is a carrier of information, or what is called as repository of information. So when the organism multiplies, this information, okay? Now both DNA and RNA, what we call as deoxyribonucleic acids and ribonucleic acids, are technically speaking polymers of monomeric units which are called as nucleotides. Okay? So when nucleotides come together, you get what is called as more specific. If a nucleotide which is called as ribonucleotide is joined together with other ribonucleotides, we get RNA. And when deoxyribonucleotides, which are monomers, are joined to each other, then you get what is called as DNA. Okay, just like you have seen before, where monosaccharides come together to give you di, tri, polysaccharides. Amino acids come together to give you dipeptides, tripeptides, proteins. And also in case of fats, when long chain fatty acids come together and form what are called as membranes, etc. etc. Okay? In the same manner, here monomeric units come together to form polymers which are called as DNA and RNA. Now what are these monomeric units? A given nucleotide is composed of three parts in a sense. It is composed of a region or a part which is called as a base, and this base is of two types. One which is purine in nature and the other one which is a pyrimidine in nature. Okay, and the reason they are called as bases is because they contain nitrogen which gives them a basic character. Okay, this base is typically joined together to a sugar. Okay, and the sugar is typically either ribose or 2' deoxyribose, which means at the 2' position instead of OH, there is a H. If that is the case, you call it deoxyribose. Ribose is a 5-carbon sugar, and this base is attached to position number 1. A combination of a base and a sugar is many times referred to as a nucleoside. And when you attach a phosphate to a nucleoside, you get what is called as a nucleotide. Okay. Now, very interestingly, this entity here is basic in nature. When it attaches to a sugar, which is generally neutral, the nucleoside which you get is also basic in. But the minute you put a phosphate, then you impart actually acidic character to the combination. And because of that, the combinations are referred to as nucleic acids. Okay, the word acid coming from the fact that there is this phosphate which gives acidic character. Okay. Now more detail, and we look at in detail in terms of first the base, and then later on addition of sugar, and then the phosphate. Now, as I said earlier, the bases which are present in nucleic acids or in nucleotides are of two types. One which you call as a purine base, and the other one which you call as a pyrimidine base. Okay, a purine base has a core structure which looks like this. It's a bicyclic compound which has got 4 nitrogen. So it's a bicyclic heterocyclic compound. Okay, and the numbering of this purine ring system is as follows. So this nitrogen here is numbered 1, then 2, then 3. This is numbered 4. This carbon is 5. Then you have 6, and then you go to the second ring and number it as 7, 8, and 9. Similarly, the other type of base which is found in the DNA and RNA is a pyrimidine base. This is also a heterocyclic compound, but it's a single cycle containing 2 nitrogens, and the 2 nitrogens are relatively speaking meta to each other, okay, or in a 1-3 position, and the ring itself is numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, in DNA and in RNA, the 2 purine bases which are found are namely adenine and guanine. Now, adenine in the strictest sense is 6-aminopurine, okay, because this is a 6th position, but we rarely use that term 6-aminopurine except to understand the structure. The common trivial name for this compound is adenine. The other purine base that is found in DNA and RNA, going by this numbering system, is called 2-amino-6-oxopurine. Then again, we rarely see this terminology used. It is more famous by the common name guanine. Okay, so when I say guanine, I mean 2-amino-6-oxopurine. On the other side, which is the pyrimidine base side, there are 3 bases which are found in biological systems. Okay, namely cytosine. Cytosine is again 2-oxo-4-amino uracil, which is 2,4-dioxopyrimidine, and thymine, which is 2,4-dioxo-5-methylpyrimidine. But then again, we rarely use these systematic names. We tend to use the trivial names to describe these 3 bases: cytosine, uracil. Now, out of these 3 bases, what is generally observed is that in DNA, we find cytosine and thymine in most cases. Okay, every once in a while, you might find uracil in DNA. Likewise, among these 3, you find that uracil and cytosine are present in RNA in most cases. Thymine appears very rarely in RNA. Okay? And that is why that terminology, that DNA is A, T, G, C, and RNA is A, U, G. Remember, most of the time in DNA you will find C and T, which is cytosine and thymidine. Every once in a while you find uracil, and likewise in RNA you find mostly cytosine and uracil, and every once in a while you find thymine. Okay, so going further. Okay, so adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine are found in DNA, and adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil are found in RNA. Okay. Now, here is a slide which shows the combination of a base with a sugar to give you what is called as a nucleoside. On the top is a combination of 4 bases: adenine, guanine, cytidine, and uridine with ribose. Okay, and these are the 4 nucleosides which are typically found in RNA. Okay, because they combine with ribose. Okay, while these 4 structures here are the combination of adenine, guanine, cytidine, and thymidine with deoxyribose. So note here, at this position OH is missing. Okay, and therefore these are all referred to as 2' deoxy compounds. 2' deoxyadenosine, 2' deoxyguanosine, 2' deoxycytidine, and what is called as thymidine. Okay. Now, relative to this, look at the name of this. This is called as adenosine. So when I say adenosine, it means combination of adenine and ribose. When I say deoxyadenosine or 2' deoxyadenosine, it's a combination of adenine with ribose. Okay. Now, the other thing to note is that the way the purines combine with sugar, okay, either ribose or deoxyribose, is through the 1 position of the sugar. In this case, it is called 1', so that you can distinguish those numbers from the numbers you use to number the base. So, in all the purine nucleosides, as I call it, the connection is sugar's 1' carbon via what is called as the N-glycosidic bond to the nitrogen, which is at position 9 of the respective purine ring. If you remember the numbering of the purine ring numbering is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is the nitrogen which is connecting to the sugar. That's why we use a terminology N9. So purines are connected to the sugars through the N9, and the connection is what is called as a N-glycosidic bond, which is a bond between carbon at position 1 of the sugar and the nitrogen at position 9 of the purine. Similarly, what you find is in case of pyrimidines, again you have a N-glycosidic bond, but the bond is between the 1' position of the sugar and the 1 position of the pyrimidine. Okay. Remember, the numbering of the pyrimidine is where this nitrogen gas is number 1. Okay. So the joining of the 2 types of bases with the sugar is slightly different, and you have to remember that pyrimidines are connected to the sugar through N1 via a N-glycosidic bond, and the purines are connected through their N9 via N-glycosidic bond to carbon 1 of the sugar. Okay. Now notice how the name changes. The bases which are called as adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil, the minute they combine with the sugar, they get the name adenosine, guanosine, cytidine, and uridine. So when I use the word uridine, you should realize it's a combination of uracil and ribose. Okay. And when I say thymidine, it's a combination of uracil and deoxyribose simply because this is mostly found in DNA. In other cases, we tend to specify. When I say cytidine, it is ribose. When I say 2' deoxycytidine, it's deoxyribose. Okay. So going further, when a nucleoside combines with a phosphate or what we call as phosphoric acid, you get what is a nucleotide or what we call as nucleic acid.
So can you go to the previous slide?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So why do we call thymidine and not 2-deoxythymidine? Because there also hydroxy group is not there, right?
Correct. The reason is simply that in most cases, because thymidine is found only in DNA. Okay, remember DNA is ATGC. Okay, when you use the word thymidine, it is many times given that you are talking about deoxy sugar. Although, if you want to be really correct, you should be calling it 2' deoxythymidine so that there is no confusion. Okay. So point
Okay, sir,
taken,
thank you.
but the only reason I put it here is because 99% of the time thymidine is found in DNA. So when I say thymidine, it is just presumed that it is going to be deoxy. Okay, but you are very right. If I don't want any ambiguity, I should be calling it 2' deoxythymidine. Okay, so that there is no argument at all. Okay. Now, as I said, combining a nucleoside with a phosphoric acid will give you what is called as a nucleic acid or nucleotide. So here is a combination of adenosine with phosphoric acid, and the connection between adenosine and phosphoric acid is actually a ester bond. Okay, if you can realize this. Remember, this is normally CH2OH. I have to go back. See this adenosine, this is CH2OH. Or if it is deoxyadenotine also, it is CH2OH. And what I have shown here is actually a combination of this OH with phosphoric acid with a loss of H2O. So what I have done is formed a bond between phosphoric acid and the alcohol to give myself what is called as a phosphoester. Okay, and this ester is referred to as adenosine 5' monophosphate. The reason I use the word 5' is to indicate that the OH which was at the 5' position is the one which is involved in the formation of the phosphoester bond. If the same thing would have occurred using this OH group or this OH group, I would simply have called it 3' monophosphate if this was involved, and 2' monophosphate if this was involved, as it is shown here. Here I have got cytidine, which is forming again a phosphoester, but this time using the OH which is present at the 3' position, and that's why this is referred to as 2' deoxycytidine, deoxy for missing OH here, and 3' monophosphate to indicate that this OH is involved in the formation of the phosphoester bond. Okay. Now, this is also very famously your AMP. Remember, we use the when you studied your biochemistry, you had a lot of cycles that you studied where you use the word AMP, ADP, and ATP. AMP is what is this? Okay, even though when we say AMP, we don't actually specify 5' monophosphate. It is given that when nothing is said, you just presume it's 5'. It's only when phosphorus attaches elsewhere that you try to specify so that there is no doubt. So if you hear somebody talking about, say, deoxycytidine monophosphate and they don't put a number, then you have to presume they are talking about 5'. Okay, unless of course they say 3', which means it is combining somewhere else. Okay, now AMP or adenosine 5' monophosphate normally is always present in the body in the ionized form, and therefore another term which is used to describe this compound is adenylate acid. Okay, so this same compound is famous in biochemistry by in 3 terminologies: adenosine 5' monophosphate, or simply the short form AMP, or adenylate acid if this is OH and OH, and adenylate if this is O minus O minus. Okay. So the same compound is many times, depending on which book you read, you might see different people using slightly different terminologies. So again, AMP 5' monophosphate, shortened version AMP adenosine monophosphate. Then if this is OH and this is OH, adenylate acid, and if it is like this as shown here, ionized form adenylate. Okay. Now this here shows what I just talked about. Okay, in a slightly different fashion. Again, adenine, deoxy ribose, and phosphate to give you deoxyadenosine 5' phosphate, or DAMP. And in this case, guanosine or guanine combining with sugar, and then that to that added a phosphate, we have deoxy-GMP. Okay. Now note something very interesting. Here the sugars are shown in a very interesting fashion. Sorry, the bases are shown in a very interesting fashion. They are shown in a flipped version. See, previously we used to always write this ring on this side. Okay, I'll show that here. See this? The ring is written like this on this side, but in this structure, that ring is flipped and written like this. Okay. In fact, what you find is that most of the time in these type of molecules, the sugar usually is attached to the base through a beta linkage or N-glycosidic bond, and the base itself is always present in this conformation, and it is called as anti-conformation. Anti means this ring is away from the sugar ring, okay, rather than being on top of it. Okay, I'll come to that a little later. Okay, now here is again the other two pyrimidine nucleotides, cytosine deoxyribose phosphate, DCMP, and then DTMP. Now, when we look at the definition of a nucleotide, it simply says that nucleotide is a combination of base, sugar, and phosphate. It never specifies where the phosphate is or how many phosphates are there. So, ATP where there is 2 phosphates, or ATP where there are 3 phosphates, they are all in general referred to as nucleotides. Okay. Similarly here, I've shown you deoxy AMP, ADP, and deoxy ATP. All of them go by the name of what are called as nucleotides. Okay. Now, just to quickly summarize the big structural difference between DNA and RNA basis. RNA contains uracil. Okay, both DNA and RNA contain cytosine, and DNA contains, as far as sugar is concerned, deoxyribose, and RNA contains ribose. Okay, and to summarize everything in terms of their names, etc., the base is we call it adenosine, guanosine, cytidine, uridine. If it combines with deoxyribose, as it happens in DNA, we call it deoxyadenosine, deoxyguanosine, deoxycytidine, and as I said, thymidine. But if you want to be more specific, you can call it 2 when they combine with the phosphate, then adenosine 5' phosphate or TMP. So these are all the. Let us go further. How do these these nucleotides come. So if you were to look at this first entity, this is deoxyribose. This here shown as C is cytidine, okay, or cytosine. Okay, rather than draw the structure, it is simply written as an alphabet. And this is the phosphate which is attached to the 5' position. Okay. Now, this nucleotide, okay, this nucleotide, which is a 5' nucleotide, is combined with another 5' nucleotide. Look at this, adenine, then deoxyribose, and the 5'. Now, how are they combined? The combination occurs by this phosphate forming another ester with the OH which is present on the previous sugar or previous nucleotide. Okay. So, in other words, the two nucleotides are joined together such that the first nucleotide ka 3' OH and the second nucleotide ka 5' OH are joined together through this phosphate. And this phosphate combination with the two alcohols is referred to a phosphodiester bond, where this is one ester bond and this is the other ester bond. Okay, so two nucleotides are joined via their 3 and 5 positions, or more correctly 3' and 5' position through a phosphodiester linkage. Now, similarly, one can continue where the OH of this adenine can then connect to the 5' CH2OH of the next one through again a phosphodiester bond, and now I will be able to link 3 of them in a row. Okay. Now, many times this structure which I have just drawn is many times depicted as a short form in this fashion. Okay, so what I have essentially done is taken this structure, kind of moved it up like this, flipped it, and in a sense I have flattened the sugar like this. Okay, so if I were to take this structure, kind of go up like this, so that C is here, A is here, and G is here, and then I crunch the sugar, then that sugar would appear as a one line, where the C would appear at this end and this 5' CH2OA phosphate will appear here. Now, what this is showing here is that 3' here is connected via phosphate to 5' of this next one, to which is attached the adenine, which is this one. And then 3' of this, which is here, is attached to the 5' of the next one through the phosphodiester bond, and to that is attached the 3' OH, and the base which is attached to that is G. Okay. In fact, because this backbone structure doesn't change at all, one way to quickly depict this combination is simply write it as CAG in this direction of 5' being open to 3' being open. Okay, and I simply write CAG, that is C, A, and G, because what I find is all of this is common to everywhere. Okay, so I need not keep on writing that again and again. So when I say CAG, it implies that at the 5' end, which is end where there is nothing attached to the 5' sugar, the base present is C. And as I go along, I reach the end where to the last sugar to which G is attached, there is nothing more attached, and that is called as a 3' end. Okay, so many times DNA is always depicted as having a 5' phosphate end and a 3' OH end, just like proteins have a N terminus and a C terminus. Okay,
Sir.
So, hello?
Sir, how
Yeah.
much more time will this lecture take? We actually have another lecture at 3:30.
Yeah, correct. I am actually going to stop right now because it is 2:15 to 3:15. I'll continue from this point later on. Okay. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing, and we'll meet later. Okay. Any
Thank
other
you, sir.
questions if you have? You can ask. Anyone has any
And
questions before I go out?
sir, actually there have
Yeah.
been some people who weren't able to join due to network issues. So about their attendance,
Just tell them to call you and make a note of who all they were. We'll
okay,
see what to do. Okay.
okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bye.